Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hey, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about ceiling fans. We had an interview with Jerrill from Big Ass Fan, and they have some really nice high-tech ceiling fans, and he gave us some really interesting information. We got a couple new 5-star reviews on iTunes, and we really appreciate it. So the first ceiling fans that were actual ceiling fans, because if you go back to like Egypt, they had like the palm leaves that they would fan people with. But a true ceiling fan in India...
But that wasn't in the ceiling?
No.
They were just slaves?
Yes. In the 1600s, they had these frames that were covered with cloth, and it was hinged to the ceiling. And then they had a cord where you had, maybe a worker or someone fanning you
servant.
with it. Okay, a servant. Yeah, very good. So that was kind of the first ceiling fans. In 1886, John Hunter, he was a shotgun manufacturer in New York. He created the first commercial ceiling fans, and he used water pipes to drive through a turbine that powered these ceiling fans in factories and hotels. And they became so popular that they started putting them into high-end restaurants. And it's funny that this Hunter company is still making ceiling fans today, and they're some of the top-rated ceiling fans.
Yeah, I own 2 of them.
There you go.
I love them.
But it's interesting how a few of these companies we've talked about, how they start in that category and they kind of dominate it, and they've been doing it for decades.
Well, when you're good at something, why would you stop?
Yeah. And then in 1897, Emerson Company started with their ceiling fans and lighting, and they're still rated very high today. In 1974, Casablanca fans started, very highly rated, and because of that, in 1996, Hunter bought them out.
Oh, wow.
So they kind of took that over. The first ceiling fans for the home really started becoming popular in the 1920s.
Let's start with how to pick a ceiling fan.
Okay, there's 4 things you really want to be thinking about. One is your room size, your ceiling height, the lights, whether you want lights or need them, and then the type of control you have, whether you have a switch, 2 switches, or no switch where you're going to need a pull chain for this. And what's interesting is, I don't think many people realize, but there's a huge drop-off in the airflow just 2 feet away from the end of the fan blades.
2 feet?
Amazing, huh? So you really have a column of air that's just dropping straight down off of this. So you want to know where your seating is and where the breeze will be, and a lot of manufacturers say put this in the center of the room, but you really need to decide, where am I going to be the most comfortable with it, and you don't want to be too far from the end of these fan blades.
Well, because I have one in my dining room.
Right.
And, when I have it on, it's really nice if you're sitting at the table, but then, when I'm sitting on the couch in the living room, you feel nothing.
Yeah, amazing, huh? So you put this thing in, you have it, and you can't enjoy it because it's an open space in your area, and you can't feel it just a few feet away. So the key is measuring your room, and a lot of people, I don't think about this before they run out to pick one up.
Well, I think everybody feels like it's just a standard size. You're not thinking about how big it is.
Exactly. So there's a lot of different scales on the market, and at our hardware store, we primarily sold Hunter and a couple brands. Between most of the manufacturers, what they're saying is if you have about 144 square feet, so a room that's approximately 12 by 12, you're looking at a 40-inch fan. If you have a 15 by 15 room, which is about 225 square feet, you'd be looking for a 44-inch fan. A 20 by 20 room, a 52-inch fan, so about 400 square feet. Anything over 400 square feet, most of these manufacturers recommend that you use a 60-inch fan or 2 fans. A lot of people don't think, if they have a great room, put up 2 ceiling fans and you're going to get that cooling action, and it's going to be more efficient too. So the first thing you want to think about when you're purchasing or thinking about purchasing a ceiling fan is how big is the room.
The most common sizes carried in a hardware store or a home center is going to be 44-inch and 52.
Right.
If you need a different size, though, the store can order it for you.
And it's one thing most people don't realize is if you go like into your local hardware store, if they don't have an item or a product, just ask. Because a lot of these things can be special ordered at no cost.
Right. Just because it's not popular for that store, that's why they're not carrying it. But, I mean, they can get it for you.
Absolutely.
Or you could always go through the manufacturer's website.
Right. The next thing you want to consider when thinking about buying a ceiling fan is the height of your ceiling. And you get the best airflow when the fan blades are about 8 feet to 9 feet above the floor. And you don't want them any lower than 7 feet because that's a code violation in some communities. So if you have a low ceiling, it's probably not bad to check with your city.
And if you're really tall, it's a big hazard.
Right. And you want them no higher than 9 feet because it really reduces the amount of airflow. Interesting, isn't it? And so if you have low ceilings, they do have hugger fans. So hugger, Hugger, and that puts the fan blades very close to the ceiling. The negative thing about that is it reduces the amount of airflow you're going to get.
Right.
So it's positive. If you have a low ceiling, you can get this hugger style, and then you'll have a fan. But just realize that it's not going to have as much airflow. So we're trying to keep about 8 to 10 inches between the fan blade and the ceiling, and then you want the fan itself, the blades, about 8 feet from the floor.
So what if you have like vaulted ceilings?
So if you have vaulted ceilings, they have a bunch of these kits. So it's called a down rod. So they have these rods that you can extend the length of the ceiling fan and drop it down so that we're getting that ceiling fan right at 8 feet approximately.
Which I don't know if most people realize that. If you have a vaulted ceiling, you know, you're just like, oh well, can't have a ceiling fan in here.
And if they do put a normal one in, you will not feel the air. But it's cool. So and you can order all these, and again, special order them. But what you're going to do is, if you have a really tall ceiling, you're just going to do the math and figure out how long you need this rod, and just very easy to connect. And now you've got your ceiling fan at that perfect height from the floor. The other thing you need to be thinking about, especially if you're putting in a ceiling fan and putting your own box up, is you want those fan blades about 18 inches away from the wall and about 39 inches from other ceiling fixtures. So if you have a chandelier, you don't want it really close to that. Then if you have an angled ceiling, you want to make sure that your mounting kit allows for angle mount. And it will say this on the box itself. If you're getting a ceiling fan with a light kit, you want to make sure that you look at the packaging because some of them come with the bulbs, so they'll have LEDs, CFLs, or halogen. And these new LED kits are amazing. Some of them are rated at 25,000 hours, and they don't use much energy. So a regular incandescent light, you're probably looking at 1,000 to 2,000 hours. So just a huge difference, and it's going to save you some money.
You also should make sure that you're paying attention to what kind of base it is for the light bulb, because some of them are using the small candelabra bases instead of a standard base. And then you need to make sure that you are getting a bulb that's rated for ceiling fans. So you can either get a ceiling fan bulb or get a bulb that says garage door opener or rough service, and these are specialized filaments that are going to stand up to that vibration. When you're thinking about purchasing a ceiling fan too, you want one with a light kit on it, think about the light fixture itself. Where are you going to be putting it? Are you going to be sitting directly underneath this, or if you have it in your living room and it's in the middle of the living room and everybody's facing the TV. If you have one that has a spotlight, where's it shining? And
it doesn't spread the light evenly.
And it's distracting too.
Exactly.
So you'd probably want something with a dome.
Yeah. I don't like those spotlight style lights because it really gives uneven light in my experience. For controlling a ceiling fan, you're going to have a couple of different ways. If you've just run electric up to a box in the ceiling and you didn't wire a switch to it, you're just going to use the pull chains, one for the light, one for the fan. If you have a switch that operates your ceiling box, then what you're going to do is you're going to wire the fan and the light to that hot, and then you're going to, in general, you're going to leave the light on and operate it with the switch, and then when you want the fan, you're just going to use the pull chain on the fan. A lot of new construction, what they have is they'll have a room with a ceiling box put in place and a blank cover plate, and they'll have 2 switches running to that. You would use one switch for the light and one switch for the fan. Now, if you have 1 or 2 switches that are operating your ceiling fan and you want to control your fan speed from that switch, you can never use a dimmer switch. So you can use the dimmer switch for the lights, but you can't use a dimmer switch for fan speed control.
Why not?
It's actually can potentially be very dangerous, because if you have the dimmer on the lowest setting, potentially there's not enough electricity to get that motor going. There needs to be a certain amount of electricity moving up to the motor to get it going. And if you have it on the lowest setting, you can potentially overheat that motor and cause a fire. So what you're looking for fan speed control is a switch, and they usually have 3 settings, and that lowest setting gives it enough electricity to get that motor and those fan blades going. So, that's one thing that we would always have in the hardware store, and that's a great question to ask, like, hey, I need a dimmer switch. Well, what are you using it for?
Right.
And you can't use it for fan speed control. And then you can also buy a remote control for your ceiling fans, and a lot of them come as a universal, but it's very important to look at what manufacturers it matches up to, because even though it says universal, most of them aren't, so they don't match all. So just always look at the packaging. And then what you do if you're getting a remote control for your ceiling fan, you're going to have to take the screws off the canopy, open that up, make sure you always turn off the electric to any circuit you're working on, and then you're going to wire this receiver inside the canopy, and then you're going to be able to operate it from a remote control.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool.
You could purchase a ceiling fan with a different number of blades.
Yeah, I've seen some with one. It's pretty cool looking. Looks broken.
Yeah. What's the difference?
So what's funny is the more blades you have, the quieter the fan is. But the more blades you have, the less air it moves. Isn't that weird? You wouldn't think. It seems counterintuitive. But the best balance between air noise and moving a lot of air is either 4 or 5, and that's usually what you see in most kits. That's the best balance between noise and air movement. The most important part of your ceiling fan is the motor. So an easy way to determine the quality of the motor is probably looking at the warranty.
What do you mean by that?
So you're going to see some with a 10 or 20-year warranty. If you look at some of the Energy Star, so they've rated these as the best quality, and to receive an Energy Star rating, the minimum warranty is 30-year on the motor. Amazing, huh?
Yeah.
So the better motor, you're going to be able to move more air. It's going to use less energy. And what's funny is one of the biggest complaints about ceiling fans is a noisy motor, and those are on your cheaper fans. Some of the new technology, they've got these new DC motors, so the electricity in your house is AC, alternating current, and they have electronics that convert this to direct current. They're more expensive, but they're much more powerful, they move more air, and they use a lot less energy. Now, if you're installing a ceiling fan, and let's say you're running your own electric, you're putting a new box up in the ceiling for this, you're looking for a box that's marked ceiling fan support, or it's going to say suitable for fan support. So make sure you look at it, because if you run into a home center and you just go into their area where they have all the boxes, a lot of the circular boxes are going to be marked for ceiling fixtures, but many of them are not rated for ceiling fans. You definitely want something that's going to hold up to the weight and vibration, because what's wild is if you screw up your ceiling fan into a standard box, they just have punched threaded holes that can't stand up, and you'll actually strip those bolts out, and now you'll have this ceiling fan swinging, man, off the electric wires, and so it can potentially be very dangerous. If you're mounting it yourself, you want to make sure that you're mounting it directly to a joist, or you want to use one of these ceiling fan braces. And I love these new braces where you can cut your hole for the box. You push up this brace into it, and it has a ratcheting system. So as you turn this brace, it expands, and it has spikes on the sides that dig itself into the joist. And cool. It's rated to hold a ceiling fan and heavy things, like if you have a chandelier or something like that. But they're very, very nice. So just make sure you're looking at it, because some of these braces are designed to be put in before the drywall. And then, like the one I explained, where it expands and digs into the joist, you can put it into existing drywall and you don't have to cut up a lot. So it's really nice.
One issue that happens with ceiling fans, if you're replacing an old one, the hole is bigger and now the new motor won't cover it.
Right.
So what do you do?
So you can get a ceiling fan medallion. So a ceiling fan medallion is this decorative, large, round thing that you put up on a ceiling fixture, and it can either be a light or a ceiling fan. But what's great is, like you had, so on our Fix It Home Improvement channel on YouTube, we, in your condo, when you were changing your ceiling fixture to a ceiling fan, that canopy on the ceiling fan did not cover the hole.
I was freaking out.
Yeah, and drywall would have been a drag there because you have a popcorn ceiling, and now you'd have to float in drywall. You'd have to match that texture, and so the ceiling medallion just did a great job. So it's just this circular piece that you put around the hole, and then you connect your ceiling canopy to that. And now it just goes away, and it's decorative. You can paint it to match the ceiling. Most of them come white or an off-white, so they match most ceilings. They have two styles. One is a solid round, and they come in different sizes also. But the solid one you would put up first, and then you would put your ceiling fan up against it, and it just blends beautifully into the ceiling. And the other style is, let's say you have a ceiling fan and you don't want to take it down, or you have a ceiling fixture that you don't want to take down. It's split in half, and it's actually overlaid. So as you can lower that slightly and slide it together and fit it above that and cover a hole. So it's just a nice tip rather than having to do drywall work.
A common problem with a ceiling fan is that it wobbles.
Right.
So what do you do?
Well, you need to determine, first off, is if the whole fan housing is loose. So if that's the case, if you grab it and the whole thing is moving and it's not tight to the electrical box, you want to turn off the electric to that circuit. You want to unscrew the canopy and then tighten those bolts that hold it to the electrical box. If it's not that, then if it's just the fan blades themselves, one of the first things you want to do is tighten all the fan blades, make sure they're secure, and then you want to clean off the top of the blades, because it's funny, if you don't clean your ceiling fan off, and enough dirt and dust can accumulate on the top to actually make it unbalanced, and it can wobble. So once you clean it, once you tighten the blades, if it's still unbalanced, they have a kit that you can buy. So it's a Fan Wobble kit, and so it has these tiny little weights with self-adhesive backing, and when you turn the fan on, what you do is they have a weighted clip.
Right.
So you're going to clip this on, you're going to turn the fan counterclockwise on high speed, and you're going to put this weighted clip on the end of one blade, and you're going to let that run for about 15-20 seconds, and you're going to see if it stops the wobble. If it doesn't, you're going to keep putting it onto the tip of each blade until you find one where it either stops it or it reduces it the best. And when you find the blade where it has the least wobble, now you're going to take that clip and you're slowly going to work it down the whole length of the blade a little at a time. And when you find the perfect spot where you have no more wobble, now you're going to take that little adhesive weight and stick it on the top so you can't see it.
Right.
And it's going to solve your problem. So really, it's kind of simple if you have just a fan blade that's imbalanced.
Well, a couple things is you should probably mark somehow which blade you started with first.
Yeah,
because
it's a great tip.
I mean, you get dizzy watching this.
Use a pencil. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
get dizzy watching this. So.
Yeah, good tip.
And then just have a lot of patience when you start this project. You mentioned cleaning a ceiling fan before. We have some tips about that.
So you never want to use alcohol on the fan blades, baby wipes. And what's in baby wipes? That you can use it on your baby but not on a ceiling fan? You don't want to use harsh...
That's a good question. And why would you use a baby wipe on a ceiling fan?
Well, don't. You don't want to use harsh chemicals or anything abrasive because many of them have surfaces that you don't want to damage.
Right.
One of the tips was using the Swiffer Dusters Extender, and this is actually rated very high. I looked at some of the customer responses, and it's supposed to lock onto dust better than a feather duster, and it has a little swivel head that flexes, so you can kind of manipulate to match the fan blade, and then it has that 3-foot handle, so it's easy to reach up there and do that. You can also use a couple of the tips from these manufacturers where just get a pillowcase damp,
right,
and just put it over the blade, and then you're capturing above and below the blade, and you've got it inside this pillowcase,
right,
which is interesting. And then another manufacturer suggested wipe your blades. Once you clean your blades, then wipe it with a fabric softener cloth, and that reduces the amount of static electricity from the movement of the fan, and so less dust is going to be attracted to it.
Well, when I clean mine, I always use just furniture polish,
Oh,
So
interesting. Okay.
I spray it onto the paper towel and then just wipe them down.
Right.
And in my experience, that gets it really clean.
Yeah, and again, it's nice to know what the blades are made of, and then look at your instructions, because it's going to give you detailed instructions on what's the best product for that.
And I always think, too, like if I'm using the ceiling fan, if it's on, everything's just going to fly off. So,
it's amazing what accumulates.
Right, yeah.
They get filthy.
When you're purchasing a ceiling fan, an easy way to find a good quality one is to just look for the Energy Star rating on the box.
Because they have some amazing standards. So to get that EPA seal of approval, they have to hit a minimum energy requirement, usually about 15 or 20% less than a standard fan. And their light kits use about 60% less than a standard fan, which is pretty wild. Their motor has to have a minimum 30-year warranty, and then the rest of the parts have to have at least a year. So you're really getting a quality product. Most manufacturers are going to have their boxes marked on airflow and efficiency. For Energy Star ceiling fans, the low speed, the minimum is going to be 1250 CFM and an efficiency of 155, and that CFM is cubic feet per minute, and then the efficiency is how many watts you're using for that. On medium speed, 3000 CFM and 100 on the efficiency. Most of the boxes are going to have this high speed marked. So on the high speed, you are looking for something that's 5000 CFM or higher, and 75 for the efficiency. And that's the best quality fans you can get. It's going to move a lot of air, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money. And you can go to energystar.gov and look up a lot of this.
Let's cover some top-rated fans.
Okay, so from our trade magazines and some online research, Emerson, Casablanca, Hunter, Fanimation, Big Ass Fan, and Westinghouse all got really good reviews for their fans. There's a new company, Minka Air, and that's Minkaire, and they just started making fans fairly recently. In 1993, they were a lighting company, and they started making fans and very highly rated. And then Kichler, Kichler, another lighting company that moved into the ceiling fan business, and they are rated very high also. We had an interview with Jerrill from Big S Fan, and he has some nice tips.
Jerrill, how you doing?
Hey, JC, how are you doing?
Real good. Cindy and I were talking about all the basics of ceiling fans, and we kind of wanted to cover some of the new technology, and I was curious if you could tell us a little bit about your fans and the SenseMe technology you have.
Okay, sure. So the Haiku Fan with SenseMe, I think we hold the top 14 Energy Star rankings, and we've won about 44 design and technology awards.
Wow.
The SenseMe technology, we've got a sensor cluster on the fan that includes temperature, humidity, and an infrared motion sensor that we use to detect occupancy in the room.
Amazing.
So what we can do all of the normal ceiling fan things like move air. We have a light on the fan as well. But with the SenseMe technology and the accompanying smartphone app, the fan can do quite a bit more. We've got a number of different smart features, learning features in the fan, so that, for example, one of the features is called Smart Mode. What we can do there is adjust the speed of the fan based on the ambient temperature of the room. Obviously, there's some automation that we can do with the occupancy sensor to turn lights on and off as you come in and leave the room, or augment the speed of the fan as you come in and out of the room.
So that sensor mode, you could really use it as when you walk in, then just the light goes on.
Sure, and really the fan can adapt to your preferences based on how you've configured it. So, for example, if you want the light to stay off, for example, until you come in the room, and the light come on, then when you walk in the room, the light comes on. The fan can go to a particular setting and turn itself on when you walk in the room, obviously to save energy so that the light and the fan are off when you're out of the room. We've also got some partner integrations that you guys may have heard about that were announced at CES at the beginning of the year that would let you save even more energy. We've got a partner integration with the Google Nest Learning Thermostat that lets you have a fan operate in what we call winter mode, ironically enough, during the winter. And what happens there is the fan will actually run a special profile, if you will, so that when the Nest learning thermostat's actually heating the space, heating the home, the fan is actually taking that warm air that is collecting up at the ceiling and blowing it down towards the ground. Ceiling fans do this already, of course, but typically the other ceiling fans that you'll find will recommend that you run the fan in reverse. And so basically what you're doing there is you're taking that nice warm air at the ceiling and blowing it down the cold walls. Because of the motor technology and the efficiency of our fans, what we can do, we can run that motor slow enough so that we can blow that warm air straight down in the forward direction, slow enough so that you don't feel a draft, but that warm air stays warm when it gets to.
Very interesting.
So the other half of the Nest integration is what we do during summer, and what we let the thermostat do there is we'll actually let you raise your thermostat set point a few degrees and augment that rise in set point with increased air velocity. Since thermal comfort's a function of a number of things, two of those being ambient temperature and air velocity, we can make you feel just as cool by running the fan a little bit faster at a higher set point. And for every degree that you raise that thermostat set point, we'll save you about 3 to 5% on your energy bill.
I've heard some reports that they say when you combine your fan with the Nest, you can save up to 30% of your energy cost.
Over the whole year, I imagine that you're going to be able to save quite a bit, especially during the winter, because what's going to happen is your warm air is going to stay up at the top of the close to the ceiling. And so as that air is more evenly mixed, we will actually bring that average temperature of that air of the room more consistent from ceiling to floor. And so the HVAC system won't have to work as hard to heat that space and keep you comfortable.
That's great. Now, you also have something that's called sleep mode. Mm-hmm. And what is that?
So, with sleep mode, it's basically just another profile that the fan can run. So during the daytime, you can have the fan run at a particular speed and light level. During the nighttime, we've got sleep mode. And what sleep mode is just a different profile that you run while you're sleeping. So, for example, if your preference is to have the light off and the fan running at a high speed while you sleep, well, you set that up in sleep mode, and then when you turn sleep mode, turn it on at night and off in the morning, the fan goes into that profile and then leaves that profile when you wake up in the morning and starts its daytime routine.
And are we operating this off a traditional switch, or is it all through smart devices?
Well, for example, with Nest, you don't have to have a Nest thermostat to operate winter mode. You can launch winter mode from within the SenseMe smartphone app. Going back to sleep mode, rather, what you've got there, you've got infrared remote that's got a sleep mode button on it, so you can have that remote on your bedside table there and take the fan in and out of sleep mode. That way you can do that through the SenseMe smartphone app as well. We also announced partner integration with Jawbone, and what we're going to be able to do is read the sleep and wake events off of the Jawbone fitness tracker, the Up fitness tracker, to also transition the fan in and out of sleep mode.
Amazing. And then do you also have a humidity sensor?
Yeah, there's a humidity sensor on there as well.
Amazing. And how would that work and integrate with this?
Well, humidity is another one of those factors in thermal comfort. So along with ambient temperature, humidity, and air velocity, and there's 3 other factors, all of those go into an equation that basically tell you how thermally comfortable you are, how you feel in a particular environment. And so obviously, on a hot, humid day, you're going to feel less comfortable than on a hot, dry day, so that makes a difference. And so what we can do is we take that temperature data point, the humidity data point, we know how fast we're moving the air, and we can, based on some data that we've gathered from our research and development lab here in Lexington, Kentucky, we can run that fan at the appropriate profile so that you feel thermally comfortable. And the way that looks in the app is you actually set the desired temperature, how you want to feel. If you want to feel like, for example, it's 72 degrees, you set that in the app, and then the fan gathers the information off the temperature, humidity sensor, and makes it happen.
That's so great. Yeah, very cool. And then your lights, are most of these LED lights, your light kits?
Yes, all the light kits are LED.
And I also saw, just off topic a little bit, that you have a pretty interesting garage light.
Yeah, we do. We started off with high bay lighting in the industrial space, and it turns out that people were wanting to buy them and put them in their garages, and so one thing led to another, and so now we're in the garage light business. But if you need some additional lighting in the garage, you can certainly pick up one of the garage lights as well. I
read a press release on you guys that said your garage light, if you use it 6 hours a day, it's going to last 70 years.
Yeah, that's owing to the LED technology and the quality testing that they do over in the R&D lab during development.
very interesting technology, and the fans look beautiful.
Thank you.
So if I wanted to find out more about your fans, where would I go, Jerrill?
Yeah, if you want to find out more about the product, you can go to bigasssolutions.com.
All right, great. Okay, thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Wow, who knew a ceiling fan could do so much?
Wild new technology. It's like having a fan robot with their things. So their Haiku model is spelled Haiku, and it has humidity, temperature, motion sensors. Just
super cool.
Pretty amazing.
Do you have any other tips?
So we were primarily talking about fans for inside the house, but if you're putting it on a back porch, something that's open, or even outside on a porch, you're looking for something specifically designed for outdoor, and they're going to have special sealed motors, and the fan blades are also unique. It's going to be rated either outside or rated for damp locations. And then just a couple things, you want to know the room size and your ceiling height before you go and purchase a ceiling fan. And then just, again, an easy tip is if you look for something with the Energy Star, it's going to give you the best warranty and you're going to get the best energy use.
One other thing that I would add to that, some of the fans, everything is attached already. Right. The blades you just snap in.
Yeah, some are pretty cool. They
and
just
some
press
you
in
have
place.
Some you have to put everything together. Right. You have to screw in the
So if it says
blades.
easy assembly, it's definitely worth it. I've done both. And the easy assembly is definitely easier.
Let's wrap this up.
If you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
If you'd like to check out our home improvement videos, you can visit our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well. You
can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.